Hello and welcome to episode number 3 of the In This League Fantasy Football YouTube show. I am Scott Bogman.
I'm Nico Miatello.
How's it going, Nico?
I'm not too bad. How are you today?
Pretty good, pretty good. Now that we finally got this rolling, I'm actually recording video this time. We'll see. So if you guys haven't, please subscribe to our channel. I'm sure it'll be up somewhere in this area-ish. Nico can do that YouTube stuff. I'm not very good at it. So you can find us on Twitter. I'm at Bogman Sports.
I'm at Nico ITL.
And you can find us on Facebook, In This League. We're on Pinterest. I don't know if that even works. You can find all of our podcasts. We have baseball, college football, basketball, and NFL football with the Welsh and I on all of those. And actually, Welsh is on all of them except for the college football. That's me and Blaze. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, SoundCloud, all of the good stuff. If you have any questions, you can email us. I am scottbogman at gmail.com. Nico is Nico Miatello, Miatello at gmail.com. Like the pudding, the Jello. It's a Tello. So this show today, we're doing running back by committee and offensive line on the offensive side and top 50 IDP on the defensive side. But before all of that, we're going to hit the news right here. So first thing that comes across, Evan Mathis released. Where do you think he's going to go?
I'm not sure where he's going to go, but he'll probably have a big impact changing someone's offensive line. As we were talking about before the show, Atlanta could use a guard like that.
Atlanta could use more than a guard.
Yeah, they could use a whole new O-line. But he'll probably have an impact anywhere he goes unless it's somewhere dumb like Dallas. But
I heard the Dolphins are looking at him. I think that would be a pretty decent fit.
Yeah, a nice fit there. They have a pretty good O-line already, so just adding on to his strength.
How about Dez Bryant? He could sit out a week. Does that scare you, or is it all just talk, do you think?
Well, I'm not drafting yet, obviously, besides mock drafts. But if we're getting later in training camp and this seems like a real possibility, Dez Bryant seems like the kind of guy who actually would sit out a game.
You think he's crazy enough? I don't think he is. The guy likes playing too much.
Yeah, he loves the sport, but I could see him sitting out maybe week 1. That kind of and then Jerry Jones will have a panic attack and sign him to an $800 million deal. But
give him 50% of the stadium rights, all that stuff, right?
Yeah. So it doesn't scare me a whole lot, but it could be a tiebreaker, depending on what you're thinking.
I don't think he'll sit 1 week. I think they'll either get the deal done or he'll just play. The dude loves playing. Kirby Wilson plans on limiting Adrian Peterson's carries. Does this make him fall for you? Are you handcuffing him? What do you think about all that stuff?
I don't think it makes him fall at all, but I'm thinking about handcuffing him. McKinnon would be the guy for me. Asiata, I don't think is a very good player.
None of it's going to happen. Once Adrian Peterson gets on the field and he does what Adrian Peterson does, they're not going to be limiting his carries. They're not going to be taking him off the field. It ain't going to happen. He's a physical freak. Unless he's getting his ACL torn, even then, would he come back in like 8 months? Something ridiculous. Yeah. So he's not going to be coming off the field. I don't buy it.
Yeah, I don't buy it either. McKinnon's this year's sort of Christine Michael, who everyone was drafting, thinking Marshawn Lynch would fall off. So I think McKinnon's going to get the same kind of treatment. But I don't mind him as a stash in Dynasty. I don't really think he's a standard league guy this year, unless you really want to handcuff.
Yeah, I'm not. It's just not going to happen. How about Tim Wright back to Tampa Bay? Is this going to affect ASJ at all?
I don't think it will. Tim Wright doesn't seem like a very good player to me.
Yeah.
If he keeps getting moved around, he seems like one of those reclamation projects that Belichick tried to take on. Didn't really work out. Now he's back in Tampa Bay. They didn't want him the first time, so maybe he comes in. He could be a little scary maybe for goal line targets, but that's about it.
Yeah, I'm not really worried about that. I think, when you think of the goal line targets they have on that team, Vincent Jackson is 6'4", Mike Evans is 6'6", ASJ is gigantic.
7 feet.
Yeah, 7'10", right? Yao Ming's taller brother. I'm not worried about him taking red zone or anything away from ASJ. Yeah, I like your note here. Robert Mathis should be a go for camp if he's healthy. Is he wear the flyer? No.
No,
35-year-old
you're not.
defensive back? Pass.
You're thinking of the wrong Mathis.
It says Robert
The,
Mathis right here. What am I thinking of?
Mathis, yeah, Robert Mathis is the pass rusher, not defensive back.
Oh,
Linebacker.
Rashean Mathis.
Is who you were thinking of is Rashean Mathis, I think.
Okay, maybe I'm right. Either way, both the Mathises are old, and I don't care.
Yeah.
Pass.
He is probably a 35-year-old pass rusher. He is one of those. He is one of those guys. I don't know if this exists, but if IDP had a daily fantasy thing, Robert Mathis would be one of the guys you'd look at.
Yeah, when he's going up against the Falcons and start him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Either way, either Mathis, I'm not taking him unless it's Evan Mathis, and then I want him on my offensive line. Speaking of offensive line, like we said before, Atlanta's got problems. Blaylock retired, Baker got cut, and now their number one guy is a second-year guy who was one of the worst tackles, according to Pro Football Focus, in the NFL. Are you messing with that at all?
No.
What do you think about Matt Ryan and Julio Jones and Tevin Coleman and Devontae Freeman? How's it going to affect all of those guys?
Tevin Coleman is a very interesting back, but if he's going to have pass rushers and run stuffers up his nose every single play, he's got high school girls for offensive linemen, it seems like. It's pretty bad. If Evan Mathis goes there, it scares me a little bit less. So I'm scared off Tevin Coleman. Julio Jones is, I think, going to get his no matter what. I'm not really afraid for Julio, but Matt Ryan, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I'm afraid for all of them because the offense goes through Matt Ryan, and if he gets killed back there, then it's just toast. It's over. That whole offense is going to crumble. So it definitely has me worried.
Worst case scenario, though, like if Matt Ryan throws for 3,000 yards, I have a feeling 1,500 are going to go to Julio.
Yeah, I mean, Julio's a stud. How about Terrell Pryor being claimed by the Browns? And I asked the Welsh this on the podcast today. Do you think it's more of a quarterback or more of a wide receiver?
I can't remember who, I think it was Albert Breer reported that they claimed him as a wide receiver.
Okay.
So that's going to be an interesting move because they have nobody. Vince Mailey, Dwayne Bowe, who I'm thinking a little bit more about going over some stats last year from Kansas City.
Andrew Hawkins.
Yeah, that was the last guy I was going to get to. Andrew Hawkins is the best receiver on that team. But Terrell Pryor is a freak. So
Would you rather have Terrell Pryor or Johnny Manziel as your backup quarterback right now? Even though Pryor has agreed to play wideout.
Terrell Pryor ran for 60 million yards on one play against the Steelers.
It was the longest play by a Steelers opponent, longest rush by a Steelers opponent ever. I think it was 96 yards. Polamalu just whiffed on him, and he was off to the races because he's really fast. But, I mean, he's going to be gadget plays, and he's going to be working as a wide receiver. I mean, he could be a decent wideout, but this also could be, the Arkansas Matt Jones project all over again without all the cocaine. So
yeah, Matt Jones wasn't terrible though before he
was just doing he was just doing rails off of his what was it? He's doing rails off of the dashboard of his truck with his American Express Platinum card in front of a Walmart in Arkansas.
Hey. Never know. That guy's worth the first round pick though.
Yeah, it takes all kinds, right?
Yeah.
So, all right, well, let's get into running back by committee. And first of all, how much do you degrade players that are in a running back by committee, regardless of how good the players are? Let's say you have two guys that could both be the number one overall pick, but one of them has a really good backup who they are going to get carries no matter what. Almost like a Adrian Peterson versus DeMarco Murray situation this year. How much degraded is DeMarco to you because he has guys backing him up that are going to get carries?
I think DeMarco Murray's a little bit of a different case than your average guy because I'm a little bit scared of him for injury purposes. But if it was like Marshawn and Turbin versus Peterson, I would sort of lean towards Peterson. Not because the committee scares me that much, but even if it happens once that a touchdown gets vultured,
right,
that will drive you insane.
Yeah.
That's a win to a loss.
That's my thing too. I'm always going to lean on the guy that doesn't have the committee. Like I said on the podcast with the Welsh, I love Jeremy Hill. I think he's a really, really good running back, but he's got Bernard behind him. And also, that is a bigger case of hot hand scenario. If somebody gets a hot hand and they just start giving the ball to Bernard and I'm sitting here with Jeremy Hill, I'm getting super pissed seeing all my carries go to the other guy. So It's a big thing in fantasy, and it's something that we definitely have to go over. But I like the way you've broken this up with the running back by committees. First, let's go over the stay away, and you can kind of tell us why. First team, Tampa Bay. Why are we staying away from them?
All their running backs suck. There is not a good running back on that team. It's not even if someone in camp shows that if Doug Martin goes muscle hamster style and gets a lot better, maybe Doug Martin. But
so you're not taking Charles Sims, even though they said they want to feature him?
Yeah, no, he sucks. He's not good.
How about the Patriots? And any answer besides Bill Belichick is the devil is wrong.
Yeah. It's alone Bill Belichick will let you rush for 1,000,000 yards 1 week, and then if you're late to a practice, you'll sit for 3 weeks like Malcolm Butler.
No. How about the New York Jets?
The New York Jets one is really weird because Chan Gailey, he's shown like what he did with Fred Jackson and C.J. Spiller before Doug Marrone. Chan was doing the same thing, where it's like you can be obviously the better running back, but if he likes another guy more, that guy's getting the carries. So you could realistically see someone like Bilal Powell get 15 carries a week and average 2 yards per carry, and it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, and Chris Ivory and Zach Stacy, and they just have so many options there. You got to stay away from it. Mm-hmm. I like this one, too. Tennessee as a stay away from. One of those guys is going to get the job, either Cobb or Sankey. You don't want either one of them?
I don't want them now. It could change if someone takes the definite lead, but if it's going to be one of those situations where Sankey gets all the work between the 20s and then Cobb gets all the goal line work, that's the worst for fantasy. Like one of those D'Angelo Williams versus Jonathan Stewart type things. It's going to happen, I think, where one of those guys is going to be a top 20 running back, but he's going to be a top 20 running back scoring 6 points a week, and you're not going to ever want to start him.
Yeah, it's frustrating. I hope one of those guys gets a job and just runs away with it.
Yeah.
All right, so these four teams are the use caution. Cleveland, that's Crowell's job for now, right?
It could be Crowell's job, but if Duke Johnson doesn't move to wide receiver, like was rumored, I could see Duke Johnson stealing that job away by week 6 or 7. So this could be one of those things like last year where sometimes it was Ben Tate, sometimes it was Terrence West, sometimes it was Crowell, where you never know who you have and you have to drop and pick up and cycle through guys all season long.
And I think that David, what's his name, that was moving to wide receiver. Why did I just blank on his name? Duke Johnson. I say David Johnson. Yeah. Duke Johnson, I think they were just trying him out at wide receiver to get him on the field. So if the coaches like him that much, it tells me that they want this guy on the field, and they're going to try to get him in there no matter what. So it's a little bit scary. I might use that as more of a – it could go either way. It could go to a all systems go, or it could go to a stay away from at some point this year. Arizona, tell us about why you're using caution with Arizona.
I'm just afraid that because if Bruce Arians had it his way, he would have Carson Palmer throwing 75 times a game. And yeah, it's got to be it's a little weird too because David Johnson is a big guy, but he is not the big pounding back. So I can foresee a situation where all three of those, well, including Stephon Taylor, all three of those guys get some carries.
And Kerwin Williams gets in there all the time for Arizona too.
It's a weird little situation there. If one of those guys really takes away the job, which I can see happening, but I'm not 100%
Who is it?
certain on.
Who is it if one guy takes it?
I think it's David Johnson.
I do too, and I like Ellington a lot, and he's really good PPR option. But if you're not in a PPR, you got to go with Johnson. He's the bruiser. He's the bigger back. That's definitely what I go with.
And he's a good pass catcher too.
Yeah, he can do it all. And Ellington may be injury prone. We're not sure yet, but it could be a thing that happens with him. How about the Cowboys? Using caution with the Cowboys.
The Cowboys thing is me. I'm a little bit more scared of Jason Garrett than I am of the backfield because I used to think Jason Garrett was a horrible coach. Now, last year made me question that a little bit. He might be not a bad coach, but I have a feeling like he likes Darren McFadden, but Joseph Randle is the better runner. So if Darren McFadden gets in there and starts getting carries, I'm not sure I like that a whole lot. But it could get to the point where Darren McFadden gets hurt like he always does, and then Joseph Randle is a must-add.
Yeah, hopefully he doesn't steal anything and he stays on the field this year.
Yeah.
I like Joseph Randle because of where he's projected to go right now. I think he is a guy that's going to have a lot of helium going into the year, and he could get to the point where we say, I don't like him that much. I don't want to mess with him that much. But if you can get him in the 5th, 6th round right now, I think he's going to win the job. But we'll just have to see come draft time where he is, and if we still like him and what develops in camp and preseason and all that stuff.
Yeah, this situation a little bit reminds me of a few years ago. I can't remember exactly what year it was, when we had Felix Jones still starting over DeMarco Murray.
Felix Jones.
And, he's
That's
awful.
all because Jerry Jones is an Arkansas guy.
Yeah, and that's why McFadden's in the house. But
yeah, that's true.
It just seems to me like when fucking Murray had his first game and he ran for 7 million yards against the Rams, it was awesome. And I could see this similar thing happening with Joseph Randle.
Yeah, I'm not messing with that until the preseason for sure. How about this Giants situation? They have Rashad Jennings, and they brought in Shane Vereen, and Andre Williams could take some goal line carries. What do you think about that one?
See, I think Andre Williams is the best player there. He can't catch the ball at all, which is a big issue, because then he turns into a really touchdown-dependent guy. He reminds me sort of Alfred Morris in that way, where he could
a bruiser.
He could run. Yeah, and he's not quite the plotter that Alfred Morris can be at times, but he is a strong guy he has no hands. So that could be a problem where both Vereen and Jennings start stealing carries, and Williams is just the main yardage back who's very touchdown reliant.
See, I think if I'm going with one guy out of this, I think I'm going with Vereen right now, especially if you're in PPR, you have to go with Vereen. But if you're not, if you're in standard, I think I'm still going with Vereen because they said they don't view him as just a third down back, and he's a vet and he's experienced. I like Vereen, but I mean Rashad Jennings could wind up being the lead back there, so that could go any of three ways. Still, it's a true coin flip situation.
Again, a similar thing happened here with Ahmad Bradshaw and Brandon Jacobs for a while, where they were both good players, but neither one was super ownable.
Yeah, that's a good. If two of these guys go down, whoever's left standing would be an amazing value. But it's just one of those things. We have to wait and see how it goes. All systems go. Cincinnati, that's got to be because Hill and Bernard are both still very good, right?
That's a big part of it. Another big part of it is I just think Jeremy Hill's really fucking good. I'm a huge fan of his. He runs over people, he runs through people, he runs around people. And those athletes are very rare. The only other guy who I think is similar is Adrian Peterson right now at the running back position. So I'm a huge fan of Jeremy Hill.
I like Hill too, and I think there's enough carries to go around. I think Hill finished 10th, and Bernard finished 18th in standard scoring last year. So as far as running backs go.
Yeah, there was a thing where if you took the first 8 games of Bernard, he was probably a RB1, and the last 8 games of Hill, he was definitely an RB1. I think he was probably like the second or third best back in the last 8 games. So it could be one of those situations where it's like you were mentioning before, hot hands for certain periods of time. But if you have the right guy when they're hot, you're going to be winning every game.
Yeah, I hate taking Bernard in any draft. Like, I'd have to do it in a super deep league for me.
Or PPR.
Yeah, or PPR. I still don't think I'd do it because I get frustrated when he gets 7 touches in a game because Jeremy Hill just looks like the MVP. Denver, as an all-system go, that's just C.J. Anderson's job, right?
Yeah, Monty Ball is not very good. He can't pass protect. He can't really do a whole lot of anything. He seems to think he's still in the running, but I'm pretty sure he's the only one.
Yeah, Kubiak said that, but like I said before, I'll say it again. That's all coach speak. That's all to get C.J. Anderson in shape and raring to go and ready to go. That's just – it's C.J. Anderson's job. New Orleans – is this because it's Mark Ingram and C.J. Spiller are both really good, or is it because one of them is going to be ahead of the other?
Both players are excellent. I think C.J. Spiller is going to be – I'm super high on him. I think he could be a better version of what Darren Sproles was there. And I think Mark Ingram could also be an RB1, maybe a high RB2, but I think we could see two players maybe finishing like 5th and 11th in running back scoring in PPR leagues on the same team.
How about standard scoring? Are you taking Ingram or Spiller?
I'm taking Ingram in standard scoring, but I'm still high on Spiller.
Okay. How about the Niners? All systems go on them. That's just Carlos Hyde's job?
Yeah, that's Carlos Hyde's job. If your league counts return yards and Reggie Bush is back there still returning the ball, I think Reggie Bush is worth a look as maybe a flex guy, but I think this is Carlos Hyde's job.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's Carlos's job. He would really have to fail pretty hard. You'd have to have like a Monty Ball situation to be not the starter at the end of the year. So I think that those are your stay away from, use caution, all systems go. How about this? I like what you have here. Running backs that will finish the job. Miami, is it Lamar Miller or Jay Ajayi at the end of the year?
I'm very high on Jay Ajayi. Going into the draft, I watched I think every game he played. I might have missed a couple that I couldn't find on torrents. But Jay Ajayi reminds me of Le'Veon Bell. He runs the same way. He hesitates the same way in the backfield. He's so patient, and he's just a really good player. That injury is scary, but if it goes away, I could see Jay Ajayi as a first-round pick next year in fantasy.
It's Lamar Miller. They've been trying to push him out for years. It hasn't happened. If they open up, if they go ahead and open up their checkbooks and get Evan Mathis in there, he's got even better blocking. Ryan Tannehill is going to be passing the ball a lot, so he'll have more open running lanes. They can't push that guy out, man. They just can't do it. He finished 9th in scoring for running backs last year. You can't take him off the field. He's too good.
He's a really good player, and I like him a lot. I just love Jay Ajayi. I've been an advocate of Miller for a long time, but I'm just too high on Ajayi. Ajayi also does this thing, which I don't see any other players do it. He doesn't.
The J train. Oh no, that's not it.
He always, when he scores, he puts the ball ahead of him to make sure it gets in the end zone every time, which makes me think he's a very heady player, because you can see a lot of those guys make the stupid mistake of dropping the ball.
Deshaun Jackson.
Yeah, they're too excited to score. Byron Maxwell almost did it in the national championship. Yeah. Or not Byron Maxwell. What's his name?
Royce Freeman? Is that
the other one.
Byron Marshall.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. Byron Marshall. He almost did it there too. But Jay Ajayi is always thinking like score the football. I'm really big on that guy.
I like him too. It's just the knee injury scares me, and there were teams that took him off the board because they said he's bone on bone and he's not going to be able to play very long. Yeah. So we'll see. But I think they've been trying to push Lamar out for a long time, and they just can't do it. It's because he's too good. This one's more interesting to me. Alfred Morris or Matt Jones? What do you have on that one?
I think Alfred Morris has this job all year long. I think they grind him the same way DeMarco Murray got grinded, because he's gone next year. He's off the books. And then I think Matt Jones is going to be a great play going forward, but Alfred Morris is my guy for this season.
I'm the opposite on this one, too. I think Matt Jones is going to have that job at the end of the year, because Alfred Morris's yards and yards per carry have gone down 3 straight years. I think the wheels are already coming off. Like, the lug nuts are loose, and the wheels are about to fall off, and Matt Jones is already getting a lot of buzz, so I don't want to mess with Alfred Morris this season. I think Matt Jones has that job at the end of the year.
Yeah, another thing to actually argue your side is Washington could be losing every game by 30 points at halftime, so they could have to throw the ball a lot, and Matt Jones is way better receiving back than Alfred
See,
Morris.
what they should do is just put my boy Colt back there. Colt beat the Cowboys in Dallas. He's pretty solid. He's a winner.
I've always actually been a little high on Colt McCoy. I've had a soft spot for him, not being
I've
a
got a
Texas
hard
fan.
spot for him. That's my guy right there. How about Detroit? I think we can both agree on this one. Amir Abdullah or Joik Bell?
Yeah, Amir Abdullah's finishing the year with that job.
Yeah.
If he has a little bit of ball
might be finishing
security.
September with that job.
Yeah, I think it's like 4 games before Abdullah takes that job away. If ball security bugs him at all, that's the only way I could see him losing that job.
How about Atlanta, Devontae Freeman or Tevin Coleman?
See, this is like, I like Devontae Freeman a lot, but I've been recently persuaded that Tevin Coleman is a very good player. And I think Tevin Coleman will take the job, but like we were talking about, that offensive line in Atlanta is so bad.
May not matter who the back there is. They
may
both be worthless running backs because the line's so bad.
Mm-hmm. So if Tevin Coleman is also more valuable there because if he can get a crease, he's one of the fastest running backs in the league, so he can take it to the house. So I'm more of a daily fantasy play for me, but I do like him as a player.
I like Coleman, and it's not very close to me. You know, Freeman's ahead right now, but he has a year of experience on Coleman. I think he's just more talented. It's not that I hate Freeman or anything. I just like Coleman a lot. So I think he gets a job, and I think it's going to be relatively quickly. And the bad line may have something to do with it. They may say, "Oh, you can't run behind this bad line." You know, Coleman has a little bit of a better vision, and he's going to be our guy. You know, it may not really be Freeman's fault. Baltimore, Forsett, Buck Allen, or Taliaferro. To me, I think it's Forsett. I think he was really good last year. They're going to try and feature him a little bit more. What do you think?
I think it's Forsett also. I got to give a shout out to Taliaferro being like one of the only Italian names in the league. So shout out to him. But I personally think he's more of a fullback than a running back. And Buck Allen is he's a good player. I could see them sort of phasing Justin Forsett out. Maybe not this year, but maybe next year to give Buck Javorius Allen a few more carries.
How about Forsett goes down, blows out his knee, Buck Allen or Taliaferro?
Buck Allen and then Taliaferro clearing lanes for him.
Yeah, I think so too. How about Chicago, Matt Forte or the field? Not a question, Matt Forte.
John Fox is the worst. He gets nowhere near what Belichick does for his running back shenanigans, but he is so bad for that stuff.
You know, you're kind of right. I mean, the Jonathan Stewart, D'Angelo Williams was under his watch for a long time. Yeah, and the whole Denver mess with Monty Ball and C.J. Anderson and no Sean Moreno.
Yeah.
You're kind of right, but come on. Matt Forte is more talented than any running back he's ever had.
That's very true, but he also has more of an attitude than any running back he's ever had, and John Fox is one of those no-nonsense guys, so I could see him sitting Matt Forte down for one of the talented backups.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. Forte's too good. He's too good.
I want to think so too, but John Fox is one of my least favorite people on the planet of Earth.
The Rams, Todd Gurley or Trey Mason?
I love Todd Gurley, but I think people are sleeping on Trey Mason a little bit. I think he's still going to get, if Todd Gurley is hurt coming into the year and then he comes back, why are they going to lean all their weight on their first round pick who's a running back with knee issues? I think they're going to still give Trey Mason some of this carries. Don't get me wrong, Todd Gurley is, I see him as like a top 5 dynasty pick right now, so I'm huge on him. But I do like Trey Mason for this year as a guy you can get probably with your 13th pick in 15-round drafts.
I think if Gurley's on the field, it's because he's fully healthy. They're not going to rush him back. They're not going to bring him back too soon. They're not going to rush him into anything. So Gurley sees the field, and his talent takes over. I don't think there's going to be too much of a rookie wall there for him. So I'd go with Gurley for the end of the year. So
yeah, he ends the year with the job, but I could see them easing him in.
how about let's get into the offensive line here. Start with number 5, Nico. Who's your 5th best offensive line in the league?
It's probably a homer pick, but I'm with the Steelers on this one. I think their line got so much better last year as the year went on, and I think it only has one below average player right now in Ramon Foster. Everyone else is pretty good. Marcus Gilbert got a lot better towards the end of the year. Kelvin Beachum, I was actually doing an exercise with Kelvin Beachum the other day. I think I picked maybe 6 left tackles in the league I would prefer over him. So he's a really good player, and then obviously DeCastro and Pouncey.
Yeah.
Great interior blockers.
I don't have the Steelers on my list.
Brokenhearted.
Yeah, it's just because Beachum is really good. I love Pouncey, but I think he's a little bit overrated.
That's true.
And everybody else on the line is good. I don't think they're Pro Bowlers. I don't think DeCastro's a Pro Bowler. I think
he's close. I'm higher on DeCastro than you are, I think.
Beachum is close. I think he could be a Pro Bowler, but Foster is definitely not. And Gilbert is definitely not. And we've had a problem with depth for so many years. We found a good player in Beachum because of the depth problems. But
7th round.
Yeah, there's too many depth problems. I'm not doing it. And it disgusts me to say that I'm putting Baltimore as my 5th offensive line on the list. But Yonda is the best guard in the game, right? I mean, he's so good.
Yeah.
And to be honest, like taking the homerism aside and out of that, I barely have Baltimore in my top 5 because Eugene Monroe is so bad. And every other one of my offensive lines here has a franchise left tackle. So Baltimore would be in my top 5. My 4th is Philly. I mean, they're still really, really good. I know they lost Evan Mathis, but they've got a lot of depth there. I still like Philly. Who's your number 4?
My number 4 is Cincinnati. I was actually between, for my 4 and 5 spots, I was going between Cincinnati, Baltimore, and Pittsburgh. I think Eugene Monroe's awfulness kind of pushed them out of the group. But he might lose his job to Ricky Wagner coming soon because Ricky Wagner is a great right tackle, so maybe he can move over. Cincinnati, they were a great offensive line last year, and then they spent their first 2 picks on tackles with Jake Fisher and was it Quanjo in the first round? I think it was
Quanjo. Yep.
Yeah. Anyways, they're a good group, and
getting a phone call.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's okay. I've got somebody's alarm is going off in my complex here. We got all kinds of stuff going on.
Yeah, I'll hang up that up.
Yeah, he's got Cincinnati. I got Cincinnati too. I mean, Bodine isn't a great center, but Andre Smith is really, really good. And I love the combo of Whitworth and Bowling on the left side. And they drafted Jake Fisher, like you said, to compete with Andre. So it's still there. I think there's a lot of stuff going on there. And I like Cincinnati.
Yeah, Andre could move inside. I think he's got a bit of a guard skill set as well. I'm not too sure about Whitworth. Whitworth is a great tackle, but he is older than we are, I think. So.
Yeah, he's getting up there for sure. How about who's your number 3?
I have Cleveland at number 3. I think I wanna put them a little bit higher, but the 2 teams I have ahead of them, I like just slightly more. Cleveland, you mentioned Yonda for the best guard in the game. Last year it might have been Joel Bitonio. He was incredible. I might be wrong, but I don't think he gave up a sack.
Jeez.
And he just looked like a monster going at defensive linemen. And obviously they have Joe Thomas and Alex Mack, which is a 1-year deal. And they also spent a first-round pick on another offensive line. This line is going to be
Cameron Irving. Yeah.
Cameron Irving.
I have Cleveland as my number 2. And Joe Thomas is a future Hall of Famer. He's probably the best left tackle in the game. And they return so many good parts, and they have great depth. How can you not like Cleveland? They're really, really good. Who's your number 2?
You had Cincinnati at 3?
I had
correct?
Cincinnati at 3, yeah. So I
Okay.
have Baltimore, Philly, Cincy, Cleveland.
Okay, I have Philly at 2. I think they're even without Evan Mathis. Without Evan Mathis, maybe you can flip flop them in Cleveland. They're really close to me, but Chip Kelly's system makes them better. They have the best 2 tackles. I think Jason Peters is the best left tackle, and I think Lane Johnson might be the best right tackle in the whole NFL. So that stuff sort of gives a huge advantage to them for me.
Okay, so my number 1 is Dallas. Is
Of
your
course.
number 1 also Dallas?
Yeah, it can't not be.
We did your number 2, right? I'm sorry. This alarm
It
going
was
on
Philly.
over here. It's really weird.
Yeah,
Yeah, Philly, Jason Peters is so good. Yeah, Dallas is number 1. I mean, if somebody gets the running back job there, they're going to be pretty decent, even if they're not very good, because Dallas's line is so good, right?
yeah.
And they got to
Yeah,
keep Tony Romo upright. That dude gets hurt a lot.
Yeah, man, they added Lael Collins to a line of, I think every lineman, maybe save Ronald Leary, is probably a top 32 lineman in the league on that
Yeah.
team. And they added Lael Collins.
Yeah,
So,
they are stacked for sure, and they didn't lose anything. They lost Parnell, but they got Collins and Doug Free and Chaz Green all
Yeah.
to play. One of those guys is going to be an above-average right tackle. So
yeah.
that line is just too good. So
Jerry Jones almost made a big mistake with the line a few years ago when he was trying to he was thinking about cutting Doug Free to replace him with Eric Winston, which would have been a disaster.
No, thank you.
So, yeah, thank God. Probably his son talked him out of that one.
Yeah, and like they hid the Johnny Manziel card from him during the draft.
Yeah.
How about this question? Can O-lines make a bad running back good? What's your opinion on that?
I think they can. I think we're going to maybe see that in Dallas. I think we've seen that. I'm not sure yet, but I think we might have seen that in Cleveland last year when we had all those players playing so well behind that line. I think Terrence West is garbage, and he looked pretty decent at times last year. Even Trent Richardson didn't look bad behind that offensive line before it was even this good.
Right. I think that good offensive lines can make bad running backs look decent. I don't think it can make them look good. Yeah. I think it can make them look like a football player. You know what I mean? Not like some scrub. So, because Ben Tate looked pretty good last year for Cleveland. Mm-hmm. And everybody's like, why did they cut Ben Tate? It's because he sucks. The dude blows.
Yeah. Then he went to Minnesota and then Steelers in the playoffs when we should have just gave the rock to Josh Harris.
Exactly. Let's not start down that path. How about how can a midseason offensive line injury affect your players?
You can see someone become awful, honestly. You've seen it didn't have it. I thought it was going to be way worse with Marshawn Lynch when Max Unger went down last year. Didn't quite happen because Marshawn Lynch is a freak of nature. But that kind of stuff can happen. Where I can't think of a good example off the top of my head, but you can just
think about if you're on a bad offensive line and you lose a starter. How much worse is whoever wins a job in Atlanta going to be if Matthews goes down? Or if, whoever goes down on that line, they can look really, really bad. Whereas, just like I said, if Miami signs Evan Mathis, that line goes from pretty good to really good, and all of a sudden, Lamar Miller looks like a first-round pick, and why is no one taking him in the first round? So, I think it's a really good thing to point out and to look at. Maybe if somebody gets hurt before the trade deadline, it's something you can peddle off one of your running backs who's looked good.
Yeah. Now that I think about it, I think Arian Foster, not last year but the year before, had some offensive line injuries when he became awful for a season.
Right. So, he also had some hamstring injuries.
He can't stay healthy to save his life. That's another rabbit hole.
Explain to us the zone versus gap schemes and what they mean for running backs.
Okay, usually a gap scheme is just the offensive line goes and eats the defenders alive. They go and they're just beating the hell out of someone, and the running back has one hole to go through, and that's what he has to do. In zone, you're not really always sure where the hole's going to be. So you have to read and react. And that's why some people are scared off Tevin Coleman because they're not sure he was that good. It can be a huge difference. Why Darren McFadden became so awful was he went from a gap scheme to a zone scheme, and he just couldn't read the blocks. And we see Darren McFadden in a gap scheme this year, so that could be good for him. But you never know what's going to happen in those differences. A zone scheme can be bad for running backs. It can be good for them too, but zone schemes scare me a little bit.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is the offensive side. It ran a little bit long today. So right now in the middle of the show, we're going to tell you about our listener league again. If you want to be in our listener league, email me, scottbogman@gmail.com. It's going to obviously have IDPs, which we are going to get to right now. So the top 50 individual defensive players for this season. Obviously, this will change a little bit before the draft starts. But let's go with let's start at the bottom. Let's go 50 to 40 right now, or 50 to 41.
Here we go. Sorry. Oh, my mouse keeps sticking.
I'll start
you go first.
Yeah, okay. So at the bottom of my list, I have Curtis Lofton. I have Earl Thomas, Von Miller, Barry Church, Landon Collins, Brandon Marshall from Denver, Danny Trevathan from Denver. I think one of those guys has to get tackles. Keenan Robinson was a beast last year. Hook him. And Earl Thomas. Hook him. Sheldon Richardson kind of scares me, but he's a really good defensive end. And James Laurinaitis as an inside linebacker rounds up my first group there. What do you have in your first group?
I have Rashad Breeland at 50, Alden Smith at 49, Aqib Talib at 48, James Laurinaitis at 47, DeQuell Jackson at 46, Kelvin Pryor, Sean Lee, Gerard Mayo, Cam Chancellor, and then at 41, Antoine Bethea.
So you had, I know there's at least one corner in there. And,
2 of them.
Okay, so there's 2 corners in there, and you had Alden Smith on your list.
Yeah.
Why is Alden Smith on the list there? Because I left him off.
He's one of those guys who he can get after the quarterback like nobody's business when he's playing well. I have him down at 50, so he's like the linebacker 21. So I don't have him as a super high guy, but I think he's worth that flyer because you never know when Alden Smith can just come on and give you a 4-week stretch of 15-point games.
Yeah, he's a beast sometimes, but you'll notice a trend in my picks. I am inside linebackers, and if it's not inside linebackers, it's outside linebackers that get a whole ton of tackles. I like guys with consistency every single week to week. I don't really like boomer bust players too much on the defensive side because I like to know that I'm getting points. Maybe I'll take one risky guy. If you have 5 just defensive starters, maybe I'll go with a Robert Quinn, but usually it's going to be 4 inside linebackers and whatever safety tackles the most. I like getting those tackles. My next group here, I got Derek Johnson, Eric Weddle, Daryl Smith, Muhammad Wilkerson, Olivier Vernon, Rob Nikovich, Khalil Mack, Carlos Dansby, Navarro Bowman, and Carlos Dunlap. Who am I low or high on in this group?
You are pretty low on Carlos Dunlap as far as I'm concerned. I have him a lot higher, especially with Geno Atkins getting healthy and Michael Johnson coming back. That defensive line is going to improve probably significantly, and I think Carlos Dunlap will probably see his sack numbers rise, and he's always been pretty good at tackles for a defensive lineman.
Yeah, and that's probably why I have him on the list. He had 8 sacks last year, pretty solid. 66 tackles, which is really, really good for a defensive end. Maybe you might have convinced me. Maybe I should move him up with Geno Atkins coming back. I just, it's one of those things. The defensive ends are going to be lower for me. I do like Dunlap, though. He's so damn fast. I remember watching him play at Florida. He was so fast. And he's a lot of fun to watch. Who's in your group there?
I have at 40, I have Hashan or Haha Clinton Dix. 39, Aaron Donald. 38, Ndamukong Suh. 37, Alec Ogletree. 36, Rashad Jones. 35, Paul Warlow. 34, Everson Griffin, Daryl Washington, 33, Olivier Vernon, 32, Stephon Anthony, 31.
So you got a rookie in there.
I got a rookie in there.
All right. Tell me about Stephon Anthony, and then I want to hear about having 2 defensive tackles in your top 50. Come on, what are you doing? That's ridiculous.
Yeah, we'll talk about that for sure. Stephon Anthony is just a monster as far as I'm concerned. That guy is I'm not sure I've actually seen someone physically quite like him. He reminds me a little bit, like obviously not to this level, but a little bit of how Jadeveon Clowney looked last year. He can just he's an animal getting after in the run game. And he's also an inside linebacker who I think is going to get a lot of tackles and going to get those splash plays like interceptions and fumbles forced, kind of the same way Kiko Alonso did in his rookie year.
Well, he's got Hawthorne to compete with, which isn't that big of a deal. But you struggle in camp, and there's a vet in front of you. It could always push you. So yeah. I'm not completely sold on him yet. But if he had the job going into the season, I would put him much higher on my list for sure.
I think Hawthorne's the reason I have him as low as 31. If it wasn't for Hawthorne, I'd probably put him
even higher, huh?
Yeah, near like the 20 range. He's a very good player.
Yeah, there's always one middle linebacker who comes in as a rookie and is amazing. I mean, I remember when Kiko Alonso was there, and what a stud.
Luke Kuechly too.
How about let's talk about you having defensive tackles on this list. What are you doing?
Ndamukong Suh, it's just because how good that defensive line is. How that defensive line's really good. Ndamukong Suh is a good player. I can see he's going to be one of those guys who actually gets you tackles from the defensive line position or defensive tackle position. And he can have those games with a couple sacks. Not to mention he can rip the ball out with the best of them. Aaron Donald is just, I think, the best defensive tackle in football, period. He is a monster. And I see him only getting better in his second year, especially with the best defensive line in football, with Brockers and Fairley and Long and Quinn.
I think Aaron Donald is probably the best defensive tackle in the game. As far as fantasy goes, Sue is the best one in the game, in real football. But I will never put defensive tackles in my top 50. They don't get enough tackles. They don't get enough pressure on the quarterback to matter 90% of years. So it's just not something that I'm going to do. So why don't you give us your next 10?
I have, at 30, Calais Campbell, Ezekiel Ansah, Jason McCourty, Khalil Mack, the aforementioned Kiko Alonso, Sheldon Richardson, Paul Posluszny at 24. I know we have to talk about that one. Eric Weddle, Jerry Hughes, and Jonathan Cyprien at 21.
Okay. Well, we'll talk about Posluszny when I get to him much higher.
Yeah.
Ezekiel, I go Ezekiel Ansah, Mario Williams, Jerry Hughes, Jared Mayo, Calais Campbell, Rashad Jones, TJ McDonald, Jonathan Cyprien, Jelani Jenkins, and Jamie Collins. Where did you have Collins? Did you have him in your top 50?
Not in my top 50.
Okay, tell me why. Let's hear why.
We also have to hit on Mario Williams for sure.
Yes, we will.
Criminally low, but Jamie Collins is one of those players who I think he's going to be a victim of that secondary getting much, much worse. They lost Kyle Arrington by choice, but I don't think that's addition by subtraction. They lost Darrelle Revis, and they lost and Brandon Browner too. So that team they're going to be able to be thrown on now, and he's not going to have to get all those running back tackles that he's had these last couple of years. Most people have him pretty high. You have him, I think, acceptably high, but I've seen people who have him as a top 10 player expecting him to improve, and I think he's going to get worse. I'm afraid of Jamie Collins this year.
I still like him. It's not that I love the guy, but he does a little bit of everything. He picks the balls off, he gets to the quarterback, and he makes a ton of tackles. And I think one more year in this system, they're missing Vince Wilfork. They may have a little tough time up the middle, even though Malcolm Brown, hook 'em, is their new nose tackle. I gotta like Jamie Collins. I thought I had him low, to be completely honest with you. Compared to the other lists that we've had, I have him lower than everybody else. in
Except
that
me.
Fantasy Pros list, except for you. You hate him.
Yeah.
Mario Williams, I'll give you a quick explanation, and I know you're going to hate it. He doesn't get enough tackles. All right, he gets to the quarterback, 14 and a half sacks last year, probably one of the best defensive lines in football. But he doesn't tackle enough ball carries. He doesn't get his hand on them enough. And I can't take those 2-sack games to no-sack games, 2-sack games to no-sack games. I can't do it. I think, to be honest with you, I think I'm taking J.J. Watt in every single draft. I'm going to reach for him, and I'm going to take him ahead of everybody because I hate these damn defensive ends so much. I hate waiting on production. So I'll play. I tell you what I'll do is I'll take a lot of linebackers if I don't get Watt, and I'll take matchups on the end every single week. That's what I'm going to be doing.
Well,
tell me why I'm wrong.
Mario,
why am I wrong?
I don't know if you're wrong, but Mario Williams, he's now teamed up with Rex Ryan. Are you still there? Still there?
Yeah.
We good? Okay. He's now teamed up with Rex Ryan, which I think is going to help him get after the passer a lot better. I think that's a huge thing for Mario Williams. He was excellent in Houston, and I think this is going to be his best year yet in Buffalo. And I can't wait on this guy. I'm not sure how high I have him off the top of my head. I'll go take a look. I have him at 9 right now. 9 amongst players.
God. Over under on sacks.
I'm going to put it high. I'll put it at 16.
16. That's one a game. That's one sack per game.
One a game. Well, he's also one of those guys who's liable to go off for a game with 4 sacks.
Right. Which is why I don't like defensive ends. I'll go. Man, that's like right where I was going to put it too. Was like 15 or 16. You know what? I was going to say that I would do a board bet, but I don't want to mess with it. I'll think about it. My group from 20 to 10 here, or 20 to 11, is I have Paul Warlow, Everson Griffin, Lawrence Timmons, Kiko Alonso, Cameron Wake, Chandler Jones, DeQuell Jackson, Justin Houston, Alec Ogletree, and Bobby Wagner. Let's hear your 20 to 11.
I have Michael Griffin, Chandler Jones, Vontez Burfict.
Michael Griffin? I'm a Texas fan, and I don't have Michael Griffin in my top 50.
We'll talk about him for sure.
Okay.
Vontez Burfict at 18. Carlos Dunlap, 17, as we mentioned before. Von Miller, your favorite guy. TJ McDonald, Navarro Bowman, Bobby Wagner, Jason Pierre-Paul, and Morgan Burnett.
Now,
who do you want to
I can tell you. Well, I can tell you. I wanted to put Bowman higher on my list, but he's not over the injury, and that scares me. All right, let's do Michael Griffin. Okay.
I'll go Vontez Burfict. I want to put a quick aside on him.
I wanted to put him higher too, but same thing. Injury. I'm worried about it.
If Vontez Burfict isn't healthy, he's off the list completely.
Okay.
So he's one of those guys who I think he's going to be healthy. I'm hoping he's going to be healthy, so that's why I put him there. Michael Griffin. Okay. He is filling the role I think Ryan Clark played in the Steelers defense a few years ago when he had 100 tackles and however many
get burned by fast wide receivers. Oh.
Pretty much that role. And with Dick LeBeau coming in there, and I know he's not the defensive coordinator, but he'll have a lot to say. And Parrish Cox is an addition who I think is a good corner, which means people are going to be targeting the center of the field more. I think Michael Griffin, who's also a pretty big hitter, is going to have a huge year this year. I'm surprised you don't have him that high. He was a pretty high scorer last year.
I like him, but I can't put him that high. I don't know. Maybe it's because he hasn't played very well. I mean, and he doesn't pick the ball off a lot. I don't know. My safety's got to make plays on the ball.
I think he was a top 10 defensive back last year.
Okay, I think I only had 9 defensive backs on here total. So I know you highlighted Lawrence Timmons for me, and maybe I'm being a complete homer, but 132 tackles last year. The dude is consistent.
That's true.
I think he's going to pick off more balls this year. He gets smarter every single year he plays, and I'm just not convinced that Shazier is there yet. And I know a lot of people put Shazier in their top 50. I want to see him be on the field consistently. I want to see him getting in there and disrupting things so that Timmons can make easy plays on balls, and maybe, to see him stunt and possibly get to the quarterback some more if Shazier is there. But I like Timmons. I don't think it's a homer pick at all.
I don't think I even have Timmons listed, but that's not because he won't be there once we get closer to the end of the process. I just think the combination of not only Shazier, but also Vince Williams, I think as Timmons gets older and as this team becomes a good team, they might sort of limit Timmons' snaps to get him ready for the playoffs as his coach of years, Keith Butler, now takes over the defensive coordinator job. I have this sinking feeling that Lawrence Timmons is going to get somewhere. He's usually around a 1,000 snap guy. I think he's going to drop to the 700 range this year.
Man, that's a pretty big drop. I don't think that's going to happen.
I love Vince Williams, to be honest.
How about Cameron Wake? I'm low on Cameron Wake. I thought I was high on Cameron Wake. Why am I low on Cameron Wake?
You're probably high on Cameron Wake as far as most people are concerned. I am astronomically high. He's in my top 10. We'll find out where in a minute. But, God, Cameron Wake just got Ndamukong Suh on his line.
You like him because he was in the CFL, right? I mean, come on. Are we being honest? That's not it?
It's not it. It's not it. I actually hated him when he went pro because I seen him in the CFL, didn't think he looked that good, and he proved me very wrong. I think that Cameron Wake is going to... I'll take a really bold statement and say Cameron Wake will take a run for the sack record this year.
The sack record.
He'll take a run for it. I don't know he'll get it, but he's going to be that guy like it was Robert Quinn a couple years ago, Jason Pierre-Paul, and then last year it was Justin Houston. I think my money's on Cameron Wake this year. Ndamukong Suh's added to this line. This guy's getting single coverage every time, and he's a monster.
I think the cops are out there. That bell's still going off. All right. Cameron Wake, he gets no tackles. And the reason I put him this high is because I think he's going to be up around anywhere between 16 to 20 sacks this year. I don't think he's going to break the record, but it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard for all of those teams to keep him off of the quarterback with all the things you got to block there. You got Olivier Vernon, you've got Ndamukong Suh, and you've got Cameron Wake. Those are three dangerous weapons, and I think he's going to be up around there too. I don't know if he's going to be breaking records or anything, but I like him a lot. I also know that you think I am high on Alec Ogletree, and go ahead.
No, you first.
All right. So Alec Ogletree, 111 tackles last year, and they said they're going to try to feature. Fisher said they're going to try to feature Alec Ogletree in this defense. He makes plays on the ball more than most linebackers do, especially outside linebackers. And for an outside linebacker, he puts up a lot of tackles. He didn't get to the quarterback at all last year, which of course is concerning. But with his track record of already making so many tackles, he makes great plays on the ball. So he's going to get you, probably a couple picks. He had 2 last year. I know one was for a score. And I think him getting to the quarterback this year with Jeff Fisher, he's going to take a big step forward. So I have him. He's not quite my top 10, but he's just outside.
You know what? You might have convinced me a little bit. I've been high on Ogletree. I think I have him. If he's not in my top 30, he's just outside it. I think he might belong in that range. He is a really good player. The only thing that scares me off of him a little bit is that defense might be even better this year, and they might get to the running back before he does for those tackles. So that's a little bit concerning for me, but you do bring up a really good point with him being a pass rusher.
How about, is there anybody we need to talk about before we get into our top 10?
One guy I think we should just mention, we don't really need to talk about, is Von Miller. Who you don't like him because he went to A&M and he does drugs and he has knee injury history.
It's not that, like, I don't care if you do drugs, just do them when you're done in the NFL. Stupid.
Yeah.
Getting suspended. And it's another thing to take a hit on him for. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I just think Wade Phillips, what he's done with guys like Mario Williams, what he's done with everyone in the past, he is so good at getting players to the quarterback. And Von Miller is one of those players who can also get tackles while he gets sacks, which gives him a lower floor than a higher floor, than a lot of these other guys. I have Von Miller high up there, but I definitely understand your concern.
Okay, I got Von Miller at 48. Now, tell me, is that way, way too low? Is it ridiculous?
No.
Should I have him higher, or do you think you're more on the crazy side expecting him to do so good?
I don't think I'm more on the crazy side, and I think Von Miller is one of those guys who you just have to be so careful with.
You got him high, I got him low, probably finish in the middle, right?
Yeah.
He'll probably be around 30. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. All right, give us your top 10.
Do you want to go 5 at a time, or do you want to just do the whole 10 at once?
We can do 5 at a time. That's fine. My 10 to 5 are Paul Posluszny, like we mentioned before, Morgan Burnett, Harrison Smith, DeAndre Levy, and Robert Quinn. Who are your 10 to 5 or 10 to 6?
Okay.
I guess it'd be.
I have C.J. Mosley, Mario Williams, as we mentioned before, Justin Houston, Harrison Smith, and Robert Quinn also. So we got a few of the same guys in there.
Yeah, so that makes it pretty standard. All right, Paul Posluszny. Let's get to it. Paul Posluszny is an absolute beast. He started 7 games, had 69 tackles. That's 10 tackles a game. He got to the quarterback twice, and he picks the ball off. He is all over the field all the time for Jacksonville. Why is he not in your top 10?
I'm just afraid. The injury stuff scares me a little bit, not a whole lot, but that it can be for linebackers. You see guys like John Beeson who just when they start getting injured, they don't stop. So that's a little bit the problem for me. The other thing that I think about is I think this defense in Jacksonville is getting better. So I have a feeling that he's going to get less tackles this year because other people are going to step up as well.
But so he could get more sacks.
That is true. That is true. But for my linebackers, when I see guys like like C.J. Mosley, I guess, people like that, I'm just going to take them every time because I know they're safer, and inside linebacker is one of the deeper positions, so I have to be sure about you if I'm going to have you high.
Okay, that makes sense, but Paul Posluszny has done it for years and years and years, and he had one knee injury, and now you hate him. I don't think you're being fair to him.
It's more the defense than the injury.
Okay, so 5-1. I'll burn off mine real quick here.
Okay.
JPP, you down with JPP? Jason Pierre-Paul, C.J. Mosley, Levante David, Luke Kuechly, and of course number 1 is J.J. Watt, and it's not close.
Yeah. I have 5 is Kuechly, 4 is DeAndre Levy, 3 is the aforementioned Cameron Wake.
Jesus
2 is
Christ.
He is high for me. Levante David 2, and of course J.J. Watt number 1.
You think I'm high on C.J. Mosley?
I think you're a little high on him. I would just have a couple guys ahead of him. I think I'd have, for sure, guys like Harrison Smith above him, and probably Robert Quinn as well, for sure. I can see him, he makes sense in like the 6 to 7 range, but you have him at 4, if I'm right?
Just so many tackles. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Just so many tackles. It's hard to pass up that many. And he's really good in coverage. I expect him to make a couple more picks this year. He doesn't get to the quarterback that much, but 3 times from middle linebacker, not bad.
Yeah.
And he'll make that splash play every once in a while. And he gets pass defended, way more than a lot of other middle linebackers. Where did you have Morgan Burnett? I think
Burnett was at
him.
He was at. You had him at 9. I think?
Yeah.
I have him at 11, so we're pretty close. Then.
Not that bad. Yeah. Okay, so go ahead and gush about J.J. Watt. I know you're itching to do it.
He's the best. You gotta take. You were saying you were earlier. I was gonna bring this up. You said you're gonna reach for him in every league. What's reaching for J.J. Watt for you?
4th round.
Fourth round. See, I don't know if you're gonna get him there. I
think I'll get him. 4th or 5th. Maybe if you're in my league and you take him in the 1st round over Le'Veon Bell, then maybe I won't
Okay,
get him.
that won't happen. That won't happen. But I'd take him over a guy like DeMarco Murray or LaShawn McCoy in the first round. I am very bullish on J.J. Watt. There is no one who's going to come close to him this year. He's going to... And another big thing about him is I expect him to catch more touchdowns this year. I could see him catching in the 5 to 6 range because they have no one else in the end zone.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. Like, I look for a hole with him, and you don't find one. I mean, he had almost 80 tackles as a defensive end, which is more than 90%. Pierre-Paul, 77, so really good. But he had 20 and a half sacks. Pierre-Paul, next best defensive end, 12 and a half. He had 10 passes defended. Fucking Harrison Smith had 9. Okay? I mean, Morgan Burnett had 4. This dude had 10. And he had a pick returned for 80 yards and a touchdown. He forces fumbles all the time, 4 forced fumbles. He recovers fumbles. He catches balls in the end zone from terrible, terrible quarterbacks for touchdowns. Everybody in the stadium knows it's going to him, and he still gets it. So he's as good as Gronk in the red zone, and he's the best defensive player in the league. It's just not close. J.J. Watt is the very best player
It's not fair.
in the NFL.
I remember the year, like J.J. Watt's first year in the league, when you knew about him, but he wasn't the same monster. He really came on in that game against Cincinnati in the playoffs where he had that crazy interception touchdown.
Oh, that was so fun to watch.
That was great. I remember that year, Justin Smith was insane. I think he should have got the Defensive Player of the Year over Terrell Suggs. And I remember thinking, there is no way a 3-4 defensive end could play better than Justin Smith. And then J.J. Watt happened.
No.
And now I don't know the limits of the world anymore.
I think it's going to be B.J. and A.J. after he leaves. It's going to be before J.J. and after J.J. That's how the calendars are all going to work in the NFL, right?
Yeah, it has to be. I have a question for you. We were talking before the podcast about how you think Jerry Rice is the best player ever, and I agree with you.
Yes.
Do you think by the end of his career, J.J. Watt could be in that conversation?
No.
You don't think so?
I love J.J. Watt. Look, I love J.J. Watt. Maybe this is me being a little bit nostalgic, but Jerry Rice is the best player the NFL has ever seen. He owns all of those records before we saw all of these spread offenses coming in. So JJ, maybe he's number 2, but I still think it could be a distant 2 to Jerry. I mean, but he's got plenty of time to change my mind. I can tell you that much. Because he's still super young. What is he, 26?
Yeah, something 27? Like that. If he gets, what does he have to do in a season for, like, let's just say sacks for you to put him in that conversation?
He has to have 30 sacks in a season, and he has to probably catch 5 or 6 touchdowns, and he has to pick the ball off 10 times.
10 times?
10 times.
10 interceptions? Oh, okay.
Go back and look at Jerry's record.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
Look at him.
Yeah, Jerry's the best, and it's not even close. I'd probably agree with you, but I think he'd have to pick off the ball less than 10 times for me as a defensive lineman.
If you do that, I might say you're better than Jerry Rice.
Yeah.
Hang on 1 second. Hold on. Damn it.
I think we're having probably cat problems, if I were to guess. I'm just going to be here all by myself. Oh, maybe this is police related. Maybe he's getting swatted.
Oh, yeah, it's just me.
Oh, yeah. It is police related. You never know what's happening. Yeah. ITL is a very, very strange network. We always have something going on.
What was that?
Oh, I was just talking about how you might be getting swatted. I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, well, there's been an alarm going off in my complex for, almost 90% of this show, and the cops are just now getting to it, even though it's not there's not a lot of crime here in Scottsdale. But anyway, we were talking about J.J. Watt and Jerry Rice. He would just have to put up ridiculous numbers that no one would ever expect from anyone. Because that's what Jerry did. Jerry put up way more yards. I mean, It's not even close between him and number 2 on the list. Who is number 2? Is it Marvin? Marvin Harrison?
For yardage, I'm not actually
Or is it
sure.
Randy Moss? It doesn't matter because they're so far behind. They're so far behind Jerry. None of it matters.
Yeah.
Jerry has 22,000 receiving yards. No one's ever going to come close to that. So.
Yeah. Well, I think someone could eventually come close to that, but it's in an entirely different NFL.
Exactly.
Like, yeah, in a couple years, especially if the schedule becomes 18 games, then we can throw out all the records again.
Yeah, and then everybody is going to need 10 more players because there's going to be so many entries. So,
yeah.
All right, well, let's wrap it up here. I think we've gone overboard a little bit. We're at an hour 10 right now. I mean, of course, I got interrupted by the police here. But next week for the show, we're going to do base sets and snaps for wide receivers and tight ends, the cost of drafting Rob Gronkowski, where you have to draft him. And then for individual defensive players, we're going to do the top 30 by position. We're going to burn through them pretty quick. We're going to pick out our battles beforehand, and we'll post our top 50 here and our top 30 by position. And I'm talking outside linebacker, inside linebacker, defensive tackle, defensive end, cornerbacks, and safety. So good luck working on that in a week, Nico.
Oh,
and
Jesus.
Me too, of course. So, but this should make it a little bit easier for us. But remember to follow us on Twitter, Bogman Sports, at Nico ITL, the Welsh is at Is It The Welsh, and our guy Honcho, who will also be covering football, is I think it's at Honcho_ITL.
Yeah.
So, and also please subscribe to our video. Next week there should be no cops, and we will see you guys next week. Take it easy.
Okay.